You all want honesty now? That's rich. You demand the truth like it's some holy relic, like you're entitled to it. But when I gave you honesty before, what did you do? You slapped it out of my hands and called it poison. When I smiled in public to keep the peace, you whispered that it was fake. And the days I said nothing, that's when the gossip really grew legs and danced through the halls like wildfire. So now, after the smoke has cleared and the ashes are cold, you're all so desperate to dig into the rot. Fine, here it is. Rip me open. Yes, I slept with my best friend. Yes, I betrayed my husband. Yes, I burned the world you thought I lived in. But let me be very clear before the pitchforks come out again. I am not sorry. You heard me. I'm not asking for your sympathy. Hell, I'm not even asking for your understanding. I'm just done pretending. If you want to know why the house fell apart, you might want to ask what kind of foundation it was built on. Spoiler alert, it wasn't love. Not the kind that feeds you. Not the kind that sees you. It was routine. It was comfort. It was suffocating. But let's rewind. You adored him, didn't you? Mr. Perfect? The charming, reliable husband? The man who always remembered to take out the trash and mow the lawn and bring home the right brand of almond milk. So domesticated, so stable. You all looked at us and thought, they have it figured out. And why wouldn't you? He played the part well. He smiled in family photos, he held the door for me, and on the outside, we were picture perfect. But behind closed doors, he didn't see me. He saw a role, a wife, a function, something between Alexa and a Roomba. He liked his shirts folded a certain way. Dinner on the table by 7. He liked it when I wore beige and didn't wear too much eyeliner. He hated noise, hated confrontation, and most of all, he hated change. I was expected to mold myself into the version of me that was easiest for him to digest. Predictable, pliable, quiet, and I did it. For years. I wore the mask. I giggled when I was dying inside. I said fine when I wanted to scream. I played the part of the perfect wife while my soul dried up like fruit left out in the sun too long. Then came Ava. Let me be clear about something. Your version of best friend and mine? They're not the same. You call someone a best friend because you went to college together or because they stood next to you at your wedding. But Ava? Ava knew me. She chose me. She's the only one who ever did. We met in high school. I was the weird girl with the quiet voice and the too big hoodie. She was wild, magnetic. The kind of girl who made eye contact and didn't flinch. She pulled me out of corners and taught me to speak without apology. We were never just friends. We were soul-bound. There's no better word for it. And yes, I married someone else. Because that's what you do, right? You grow up, you settle down, you choose safety. You ignore the echo in your chest that whispers wrong, 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 because society tells you love looks a certain way, and I was desperate to be normal. So I married a man. And Ava stayed in my life like a candle you never fully blow out. Fast forward to the slow death of our marriage, my husband, let's call him James, began to fade. He didn't yell, he didn't cheat, he didn't hit. No, he did something far more soul-erasing. He stopped seeing me. He'd stare through me like I was wallpaper. I could have set the house on fire, and he would have asked if I remembered to pay the water bill. We became roommates, friendly acquaintances, 2 ships crossing paths in the same harbor, exchanging polite nods and sleeping back to back. I tried, at first. I planned date nights. I bought lingerie he barely noticed. I left notes in his laptop bag with cringy jokes we used to laugh at. Nothing. He was content. But I was starving. And Ava? She noticed. She always noticed. One night she stayed late after dinner. James had already gone upstairs, his routine of brushing his teeth and scrolling through his phone like a ritualistic shutdown. Ava and I sat on the porch drinking wine, talking about nothing and everything. I don't even remember what I said that made her pause, but suddenly her hand was on mine, and her eyes locked into mine with that same fire from 10 years ago. She whispered, "You don't have to keep dying for him." And I broke. I kissed her. No, we kissed each other. There was no seduction, no planning. It was like something ancient surged to the surface and refused to be buried again. It was real. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Want to know what happened next? Nothing. For a while, anyway. We didn't sleep together that night, but something broke open between us that couldn't be resealed. We started texting, meeting for coffee, long walks. Our conversations bled with emotion and memory and fire. And eventually, yes, we crossed the line completely. I slept with Ava. I don't regret it. What I regret is how long I lived a lie before I finally tasted the truth. But I suppose none of that matters to you. What matters to you is the scandal, right? The betrayal. The wife who threw away her perfect marriage for a fling with her best friend. The villain. I've read the comments. I've seen the hashtags. I've been called everything from broken to predatory. And yet none of you ever stopped to ask, what kind of cage was she living in to make fire feel like freedom? The truth didn't come out in some grand, tear-filled confession. I didn't sit him down at the kitchen table like a scene from a melodrama. There was no candlelight, no soft piano in the background. No, James found out because he did what he always claimed he was too noble to do. He snooped. It was a Tuesday. I remember because the trash hadn't been taken out, and he always did it religiously on Tuesdays. That morning, I'd left my bag on the kitchen counter. Inside was my journal. My real journal, the one with the duct tape binding and the torn edges, not that fake little planner with the fake little quotes that I left in the living room for appearances. He must have gone through it sometime between lunch and his afternoon jog. I imagine him sitting at the table, flipping through those pages like an archaeologist, uncovering the bones of a marriage he thought was still alive. He didn't just read it. He devoured it. Every word, every secret, every half-shattered thought I couldn't say out loud but had to spill somewhere before they crushed me from the inside. He read the pain. He read the passion. He read the parts about Ava, raw and vivid, our bodies, our laughter, our truth. He waited until I got home that evening. I walked in and saw him standing in the middle of the living room, journal in hand, like he was holding a smoking gun. His face wasn't red with anger. It was pale, hollow, like the world had finally shown him its ugly side and he didn't know where to file the feeling. When I looked into his eyes, I felt nothing. No fear, no shame, no guilt, just exhaustion. This can't be real, he said. But it was. Every word. I didn't apologize, not even a little. Instead, I asked, "Why were you going through my things?" Wrong question, I know. He blinked like I slapped him. "You think that's what matters right now?" "I think it says a lot," I said calmly. "That you had to dig for the truth instead of listening when I tried to give it to you for years." He lost it then. Not violently. He's not the type. But with that smug, wounded anger men wear when they realize the person they took for granted actually had a secret life. "You cheated on me," he spat. "With her. Your friend." I laughed. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because he made it sound like the betrayal was who I cheated with instead of why. He started pacing. "How could you do this to me?" To him. That's all it ever was. Not us, not me, just him, his pain, his betrayal, his image. He didn't ask a single thing about how I felt. He didn't stop to wonder what part of me died slowly in the silence he called marriage. He didn't want to understand. He just wanted to own the narrative. "Why?" he finally said. "Why her?" So I told him, because Ava saw me, because Ava heard me, because when I was breaking, she didn't tell me to smile and be grateful. She didn't silence me with small talk and grocery lists. She let me be messy. She let me be real. And yes, eventually, she let me be hers. He stood there, stunned, as if I'd just told him gravity wasn't real. "You think that justifies this?" he asked. I didn't answer, because it wasn't about justification, it was about truth, something neither of us had spoken in years. The next few days were a war zone. He moved into the guest room, and suddenly our house felt like a battlefield where neither side had enough ammo to win, just enough bitterness to wound. He texted my family. He called my mother. He painted the picture of the innocent man cheated on by the wicked wife with her degenerate girlfriend. Yeah, he went there. It didn't take long for the whispers to start, for the friends to stop inviting me out, for the social media unfollows to pile up like digital tombstones. I became that woman, the homewrecker, the deceiver, the snake. But what none of them seemed to grasp is that home was already wrecked. I was just the one who finally stopped pretending we lived in a fairy tale. Ava didn't run. She didn't flinch. When I told her James had found the journal, she showed up at my house like a soldier ready for war. "I'll talk to him," she said. "No," I replied. "He doesn't deserve you trying to make him feel better about the truth." We sat on the back porch again, just like that night. But this time, the wine was replaced by silence. Heavy. Honest. "I'm not walking away this time," she said. "I don't want you to," I whispered. And I meant it. For once in my life, I meant something completely and unapologetically. But the storm wasn't done. James's mother showed up at my job. Yes, you heard that right. My mother-in-law came to my workplace to pray for me. I laughed in her face. "I don't need your prayers," I told her, "but maybe pray for your son. He had a wife withering right in front of him, and he couldn't be bothered to water the soil." She gasped like I'd slapped her, then left in tears. "Am I the villain?" "Sure, fine, I'll take it, because at least villains are real. You all want tidy narratives, good wife, bad temptation, poor husband. But life isn't clean. It's bloody and complicated. Sometimes the one who walks away from the burning house isn't the arsonist, but the one who was locked inside too long. It didn't take long before the legal vultures started circling. James filed for divorce within a week. No conversation, no mediation, just a cold, clean slap of paperwork on the kitchen counter, like that was the final nail in my coffin, like he was the wronged party delivering righteous justice, like I hadn't been slowly murdered in the silence of our home for years. I looked at the packet, flipped to the part where he requested the house, full custody of the dog, and a clause about no contact with the adulterous third party in presence of shared property, and laughed so hard I nearly blacked out. Imagine thinking you could exile Ava like she was a phase. She was never a phase. She was the only person who made me feel alive in a world that expected me to suffocate politely. Then came the court of public opinion. Mutual friends? Gone. Family? Divided like a civil war. My mother said, "I just don't understand. You had such a good man." Good is relative, Mom. Good at smiling, good at hiding indifference behind routine, good at pretending everything was fine while my soul screamed every time he touched me like I was an obligation. Ava and I were vilified, online, in whispers, in church groups, even in my yoga class. One woman had the audacity to walk up to me after Downward Dog and say, "It's just disappointing. I thought you were better than that." Better than what exactly? Better than choosing passion over pretense? Better than refusing to rot for the sake of your comfort? Better than rejecting a life that only existed to make other people feel safe? I didn't respond. I rolled up my mat and walked out. And I never went back. The night the papers were finalized, I didn't cry. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, staring at my reflection, mascara smudged, hair wild, eyes hollow, and I said out loud, "You're free now." It didn't feel like freedom yet, but the words had power. Ava sat beside me on the tile floor. She didn't speak. She just handed me a glass of red wine and put her head on my shoulder like we were 16 again and planning how we'd escape our small town. It wasn't romantic. It was real. And real is what I'd been craving for a decade. But here's the part you'll hate, the part that breaks your neat little narrative, the part where I say, we're still together. Yep, Ava didn't run. She didn't ghost. She didn't come to her senses and go back to dating men and living a respectable life. She stayed. Through the hate, through the awkward dinners, through the sideways looks and the rumors that we were both just confused or experimenting or mentally unstable, she stayed. You know why? Because love isn't always wrapped in a neat bow. Sometimes love is messy. Sometimes it starts in the wreckage. Sometimes it walks in when your life's on fire and says, I'm not afraid of the heat. People think I chose the affair over the marriage. They're wrong. I chose myself. I chose truth, desire, breath, life. I chose to feel something besides numb. And I know what you're going to say. You could have left first. You didn't have to cheat. You broke your vows. Yes, I did. I also broke every piece of myself trying to live in a marriage that was dead long before I buried it. And if you want to make me the villain for that, go ahead. Villains tell the best stories anyway. Here's something else that'll piss you off. I don't regret it. Not a single second. Not the first kiss. Not the affair. Not the fallout. Not the scorched earth. Because all of it, every cracked moment, led me back to me. And let's be honest, you love to hate women like me, the unapologetic ones, the ones who don't weep and beg for your forgiveness, the ones who choose pleasure over performance. You hate us because we refuse to die in roles you pick for us. You hate us because we remind you of your own cages. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I don't want it. I'm telling you this because I'm done being rewritten by people who only know the headlines. I'm done with the how could she conversations that leave out all the years I screamed into a void. I didn't leave because of Ava. I left because I was already gone. Rebuilding starts in silence, not the suffocating kind I lived in during the marriage, not the quiet of dead dinners and obligatory date nights. No, this was the silence of space, of possibility, of not having to perform for anyone anymore. James took the house. Good for him. Let him live in those walls and pretend they still echo with love. I got an apartment, small, offbeat, full of sunlight and chipped furniture. It smelled like paint and freedom. And in that quiet, I started to breathe again. Ava helped me move in. She carried boxes of books, plants, and the bits of myself I had hidden in drawers for years. Old notebooks, sketches, Polaroids, letters I wrote to no one. The pieces of me James never noticed because he never cared to look. We didn't make it a thing. There was no grand decision, no labels, no declarations. She stayed one night and never really left. Meanwhile, the world kept spinning in its judgment. My social media, landmine, photos deleted, comments ablaze. You ruined a good man. Homewrecker. Slut. Oh, and my favorite. You'll regret this when she leaves you. The projection was wild. Let me explain something to the spectators. There is a difference between shame and regret. I should feel shame, right? That's what you want. You want me to sit here, broken, hunched over a wine glass, crying to Adele and begging for the life I blew up. But I don't. I feel relief. You all keep talking about what I lost. But what did I really lose? A man who hadn't asked me how I felt in 3 years? A marriage where intimacy was mechanical, eye contact was rare, and the closest thing we had to connection was syncing our Google calendars? A life where I was praised for staying quiet and punished for wanting more? Number I didn't lose. I escaped. And Ava? Ava doesn't complete me. She sees me. We don't play house. We build something that actually feels like home. But oh, how you all hate that. You want me to fail. Admit it. You need the story to end with me crawling back to James or being dumped and alone, learning my lesson, because you need to believe that women like me, The rule breakers, the truth speakers, the ones who chose desire over decorum, always end up paying the price. But what if we don't? What if we survive? What if we thrive? Let me tell you about the first time Ava and I hosted people at the new apartment. It was a small gathering, just 4 or 5 real friends, the ones who didn't flinch when the story got ugly, the ones who said, "About damn time" when I left, the ones who saw Ava not as a scandal, but as salvation. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. We danced in the kitchen. At one point, Ava put her arms around my waist and kissed my neck, and no one batted an eye. No shame, no hiding, just life. I remember looking around that room, feeling the music, tasting the wine, and thinking, this is what they told me I'd lose. But this feels like winning. James? He remarried fast. To no one surprising. A kindergarten teacher named Rachel who posts Bible quotes and sourdough recipes. She wears beige too. I wish her luck. And I mean that because he is a good man in that bland, stable, can't make you feel anything kind of way. And maybe that's enough for her. But it wasn't enough for me. Here's the part I need every woman to hear, especially the ones pretending everything's fine while their souls are gasping for air. You are not broken for wanting more. You are not a monster for choosing yourself. They'll call you selfish, they'll call you unstable, they'll call you ungrateful. Let them. Let them choke on their labels while you rise from the ashes they buried you in. Ava and I went on a trip last fall. Just us. A road trip up the coast. No itinerary. Just music, coffee, motels, and the open road. Somewhere between Monterey and Big Sur, we stopped at a beach. No one around. The sky was gray but soft. We stood barefoot at the edge of the water, and she turned to me and said, "You know they'll never forgive you." I nodded. "I know." She kissed me. And I smiled. "Let them hold their grudges," I said. "I've got everything they told me I'd never have. So let's get this straight. Because I know you're still watching. You're not here for closure. You're here for confirmation. You want me to say I'm sorry. You want to see the remorse, the tears, the shame. You want your villain to wear a scarlet letter and sink back into obscurity so you can sleep peacefully in your illusions. But I won't. I won't give you that. Because I've carried enough shame for 1,000 lifetimes. Most of it handed to me by people who never cared if I was actually okay, as long as I smiled for the family photo. Here's the truth that keeps you awake at night. I don't regret any of it. Not the affair, not the fallout, not the judgment, not the pain. Because pain woke me up. Pain was the price of truth. Pain was the fire that burned down the dollhouse you all thought I should live in forever. You see me now and say, "She lost everything." But you're wrong. I lost what you gave me, not what I needed. I lost your approval, your fake smiles, your patronizing advice, your invitations to brunch where we pretended everything was fine and "How's James?" was code for, "Are you still performing well enough to be tolerated?" But what I gained? God. I gained peace. I gained truth. I gained the kind of intimacy that doesn't come wrapped in expectations or obligation, the kind that feels like exhaling after holding your breath for 10 damn years. And Ava? Ava wasn't a scandal. She was the mirror I was terrified to look into. She was every dream I buried under wedding china and joint tax returns. She didn't steal me. She found me. Let's talk about James one last time. The saint, the martyr, the man the internet has crowned as the one who deserved better. Yes, he did deserve better. He deserved someone who loved the man he was, not someone who was desperately waiting for him to become something more. He deserved a woman who found joy in routine, comfort in complacency, peace in politeness. He didn't deserve me because I tried. I begged. I compromised. I folded myself into a paper crane for that man, and he never once asked if I was tired of origami. So no, I won't say I destroyed a good man. I'll say I freed us both. And you? You're still here. You, watching this, fists clenched, cheeks burning, needing to believe I'm evil so your life still makes sense. But deep down, some of you aren't angry at me. You're afraid of me. Because you see a little too much of yourself in my story. You see your reflection in my choices. You've sat across from a partner who makes you feel invisible and wondered, is this all there is? You've stayed quiet when you wanted to scream. You've made love while feeling nothing. You've played the part. And you wonder, what would it take to finally burn it all down? This isn't a confession. It's a reckoning. For every woman who's ever been told to smile, to be quiet, to settle, to wait, to endure. I am not your villain. I am your warning. I am what happens when you build a cage around someone who was never meant to be tamed. You want the last word? Fine. Take it. Call me a traitor, a cheater, a monster. Tell your friends I deserve to be alone. Shout into the void that you would never do what I did. But know this, it took 2 people to break that marriage, and only one of them ever truly loved me. You decide which one.